I would request Dr. Chitra Madam to come for her talk. So as we know, Madam is very renowned and famous. So she's heading Eye Foundation. So Madam does not require a very specific introduction because she's very popular among us. Welcome, ma'am.
A very good morning to one and all of you, and thanks Sanjana for such a warm introduction, and I am truly grateful to Dr. Bastin and all at Kerala State Conference for giving me this opportunity to present amidst you all. So my due is actually, I didn't realize this session is on keratoconus. Anyway, this topic has been put here. So I think all of you have to mentally change your gears because this topic has nothing to do with keratoconus. So my due in the next few minutes is to talk to you all about IOL choice after laser vision correction and RK. Now we all understand, all of us know that refractive procedure is on the hike. People know that they can get visual independence, and it are these same patients who have started coming back to you for cataract surgery, and it is like a challenge for you, it's an opportunity for you, but you need to know the challenges which you face doing surgery in these eyes. There is a conundrum here because all the traditional IOL formula assume that the cornea is spherical, which is not so, and the effective lens position is a function of the anterior chamber depth, which is geometrically determined by the keratometry. So what happens is, in a myopic cornea where it is flatter, it assumes that the anterior chamber depth is shallower, so and the effective lens position is underestimated. However, we also note that the relationship of the anterior and the posterior cornea is altered in LASIK. So all of this is additive, and you could end up having hyperopic surprises in these eyes. Again, this is a spotlight thing at AO where the audience was asked, what would you popularly suggest for a post-cataract surgery, for a post-LASIK patient when you do cataract surgery? And good majority said that they would do a monofocal with mini monovision. There were some numbers who said that they would do an EDOF, and there were fewer who thought of putting a trifocal. There are multiple studies, all have actually reported good outcomes, and only about 4 to 40% of them did need enhancement for the residual refractive error. But what was important for us to understand is there is no cutoff, like here when you are discussing keratoconus, till this we would do cross-linking, for this you don't do cross-linking. That way, we do not know what is the quantum of spherical aberration, what is the quantum of coma or the asphericity that you would not do. I have just started and she's showing that 1 minute. So what are the concerns? The concerns when you do cataract surgery in a post-LASIK eye is the contrast sensitivity, the exacerbation of night symptoms which could be there. These corneas could be irregular because of the decenter treatment. The ocular surface may not be good. There could be residual refractive errors. So we choose patients who are highly motivated. We should remember, we should ask these patients, did you have good vision after your primary refractive surgery? Did you have any night vision problems? And with that we choose. The big plus point for us is we have the latest biometers, we have the latest formulae, we have now lenses which are designed so that the loss of light is less and the central optic zone is larger. So even if your angle alpha is more, or the kappa is more, it is forgiving. We need to look at the topography to see whether it's a centered treatment, there's no irregularity. Look at the ablation pattern, look at the residual, look at the quality of the ocular surface, treat the dry eye status. Definitely look at the retina. If there's anything in the macula, do not put premium IOLs here because of the loss of contrast. A wavefront aberrometry will tell you about the higher order aberration, the spherical aberration, the coma, and how do you select your patients. Important thing is we need to know in myopic LASIK, positive spherical aberrations are induced. So you need to counter it by putting negative spherical aberration lenses, and most of our lenses are negative spherical aberrations now. If the patient has hyperopic LASIK, there's a lot of negative spherical aberration is created. So you have to put a positive spherical aberration lens. And if it is an irregular ablation, then you put an ablation free lens. Now all these lenses do very well in a normal eye. So what is it special in post-LASIK? We need to use the best of formulae. The Barrett-Truquet seems to make real good sense, the Higgy-Cell, and probably the ASCRS calculator, which has come up to a big change. However, the Barrett-Truquet toric calculators are the answer for these eyes if they come in with astigmatism, and multiple studies tell us that 75% accuracy is possible within 0.5 diopter of target in a myopic classic. In other words, myopic classic does better, then does PRK, then hyperopic classic. So then coming to individual cases, now this was a patient who had a fair amount of cylindrical power, had a myopic classic. You do a topography, you do an eye trace says the patient has astigmatism. So then you need to look at the central cornea, whether in the central 3 millimeters it's a regular bow tie. You should check in two modalities. The astigmatism difference should not be more than 0.75. Use the Barrett-Truquet toric, and then go if you can on the best platform, the toric LRCS platform, and this patient did very well. Now this is another patient who had hyperopic classic. Look at that central steepness there. Then it makes sense not to put a premium IOL but do an enhanced monofocal toric, which did take care of him. Now if the patient has significant irregularities, decentered ablation and macula suspicious early glaucoma, you would put a monofocal IOL again. Now what do you do for post-RK? Post-RK, we have the RK calculator on the ASCRS platform. We have the Higgy-Cell, we have the Barrett for RK. The important thing is if the incisions are more, there is significant flattening, and the keratometer is not measuring the very center of the cornea, which is the most critical part. And again, ELP is underestimated. So what has been done is you look at the Barrett-Truquet for the RK calculation, look at the topography, and herein again we did an LRCS with an enhanced monofocal IOL. In spite of your best efforts, you need to tell the patient there could be residual error, you may need refractive enhancements, and in an RK we need to understand for the next 2-3 months after cataract surgery there could be a transient hyperopic shift, so you have to wait till then and then treat the refractive stability, which could be a flap lift, which could be a repeat PRK, or it could be an IOL exchange. Most importantly, the last of my slide, I actually tried my best to talk in the 1 minute which was showing, so I've gone very fast. So the best is probably to regularize the topography of the cornea and then wait for the eye to stabilize over a period of 2 to 3 months and then do it, or maybe those light adjustable lenses which are still evolving, wherein you could adjust the power post cataract surgery, adjust the IOL power adjustment. So there are newer things which might come up, but as long as we stick to some formulas and stick to taking a detailed case history with these patients, that is the intent of my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and special thanks to the LOC for giving us a little more time. So with this, we conclude the keratoconus session. So unfortunately, there will be no panel discussions in our session. So over to the next session. Thank you.